On this episode 102 of the podcast, I'm going to talk about alpacas, birthdays, and Margherita. So let's get into it. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Luke Who's Talking podcast with me, Luke. How are you doing out there? Are you all right? Are you going, are you okay and all that? Anyway, enough of the pleasantries. Let's rip through the stuff, everybody. Let's rip through it. Now, the other day, last week, I don't know whatever it was, at some point previous to this day, I saw an alpaca. Now, that's not particularly unusual. However, it got me thinking. And it got me thinking about, is like an alpaca a pre-production version or a beta version of a camel? You think about it. They've both got long necks. That's about where the similarities end. I mean, I guess the camel have the humps or hump, depending. And they're like fluffy-ish, kinda. But it was like, the alpaca existed. And somebody was like, how can we improve on this? They've gone through their testing. They've received feedback. They've had a couple of production models out for testing. And people have come back and said, hey, look, we need a taller animal. We need a longer animal. And we need one for more endurance, hence the hump. They want like an off-road version. Maybe that's it. Maybe the camel is an off-road version of a alpaca, right? So an alpaca that's your family SUV, okay? Whereas the camel is like a Land Cruiser. A bit more feasible for outback driving and adventures. Can cope with hotter conditions, whereas the alpaca is just for taking the kids to soccer on Saturday mornings or whenever children play soccer, weekends. I don't know. I'm not a parent. Why am I going to yawn? I always feel like I feel fine, get into the show, then all of a sudden, the yawns. It's actually quite annoying. I don't like it, so I do apologise for that. But yeah, the camel, the alpaca, is it a beta version, a pre-production version of the camel, or is the alpaca's like the iPhone and the iPhone 13 or whatever, and the camel's like the 13 Plus, right? Bit bigger, bit more powerful, can last longer. Not as compact and as nimble, but depending on your needs, it'll satisfy you. I don't know. Yeah. What other versions of animals do you think are like a pre-production or a beta version of others? In this context, the alpaca, basically, I'm just going off the neck, really. They both have long necks. It's basically, so does that mean that a giraffe is thrown into this mix as well? Oh, no, because they're less horsey, I guess. Not that alpacas and camels are like horses. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. Let's get to the next story. So, possibly before I had the camel thoughts, I don't know, but the other week, just when I say the other week, that literally means the other week or months ago. But this was, I think, 2 weeks ago. I think it was on the Friday the last episode came out. Okay, so a friend of mine whom shares a birthday month with me, little Charlie, we went, they were like, come and get boozed up with me at a place. So, okay, some of us went, and some of my friends' co-workers turned up, which was interesting because, you have your friend groups and they don't really cross-pollinate. much or very rarely. But in this instance, it was like the work friends, co-workers, colleagues, and then like the friend group. There was cross-pollination of the two groups. And it was all right. And I think, did somebody say, I might have been asked if this was going to make the podcast. I was like, maybe it could do. There was probably, I probably had anecdotes to say about this. Oh, so something that happened was, because people turned up at various different points throughout the night. So Lil Charlie, I don't know why I'm calling her that, but whatever. Every time somebody new turned up, they had to, well, they didn't have to, but a situation evolved where they had to, well, they introduced everybody, like each time a new person turned up, and they had to use a different anecdote each time. So, for example, just to sort of make that clear, so when the Gab turned up, everybody was introduced, and like Lil Charlie used a various anecdote for all of us. And then when the next person turned up, she had to introduce us all again, but had to use a different anecdote. So if you wanted to be there from the start, because then you would hear all the anecdotes. But once it got to sort of, the fourth and the fifth introduction, and the night wore on, Lil Charlie just needed a moment to think about, things. So I think I got 4 introductions. I think the first one was I had a podcast, to which I then said I have 2 podcasts. Like, yep. The next one was the fact that I ride a bike, or my cyclist turned up. And also, the last one was I have fun curtains, and if you can see them maybe in the background here, fun curtains. And also, I think so. How they went was a podcast, to which the Gab was like, "What is it? I need to know about this." So, the Gab, if you're listening, how you doing? I hope you're going all right. Very affable, the Gab. Very affable. So, I have a podcast, ride a bike. What was the third one? I'm interested in film. And the fourth one was about the curtains. I think that's how it went. Yeah. So, but it was interesting. Like a friend of mine, another friend of mine was like, "Oh, they have a big dog." Like, yep. What else was their anecdotes? I can't remember, if I'm honest. The dog one, I remember that. Was there one that was like a slight burn? Could have been like a mild roast. Yeah, possibly. I can't remember. Anyway, but that was like interesting. It was an interesting situation Lil Charlie got themselves into in regards to that. So it was it was interesting. Anyway, everybody, I'm going to yawn again, and we'll be back after this with the last thing. So, Margherita. I want to talk about Margherita pizza topping, right? So, which is basically sauce and cheese. Yeah. Now, it got me thinking, because I had a Margherita the other day, and I thought, is the Margherita like the most steady, right, of all the pizza toppings? Like, the Margherita is it's like, I don't want to say it's a loveless marriage, the Margherita, but I think the Margherita is just like going steady with somebody, like just being solid. If I want to use it in the context of, which apparently I do, in regards to like a relationship. So the Margherita is like just being solid with somebody, having a solid partner, right? Because you don't have the drama of the pineapple on pizza situation, right? Which is ridiculous. So you don't have petty drama like that. You don't have the spice You don't have the spiciness, right, of the greasiness of the pepperoni pizza. It is just, it's solid. Like, there's nothing wrong with a margarita. A margarita's good. Margarita's solid. Margherita is going steady. So that could be interesting. Like, if you're with somebody, you could say, I want to go margarita. And they'd be like, what are you talking about? And you say, well, look, the margarita pizza is just a steady, solid topping base, no drama. You know what you're getting. That's what I want. So I reckon you could, anybody out there who's been, dating somebody for a while, and you think, I don't want to be married or anything. I just want to be solid, steady with this person. You could just say to them, I want to go margarita. Or if you've been like with somebody for a long time, you're solid, you're steady, you could say, are we margarita? You just be like, we're margarita. I'm thinking of Mark. When I say that, Marcus, maybe you could say to Mrs. Mark, we're margarita. It should be like, what are you talking about? You're off your head. And you can say, easy. Let's not get Hawaiian here. Anyway, everybody, let's wrap it up. Look, everybody, thank you very much for listening to the podcast. Thank you, wow, that was awful. Thank you for listening to the podcast. You can contact me, LukeWho'sTalking @gmail.com. LukeWho'sTalkingPod, I think, @gmail.com. We're on Twitter as well, @L_who's talking. And, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode, which is, going to be 103, because that's what's next. Anyway, everybody, thank you very much for listening, and I will see you later. Bye.